Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Are you always looking over your shoulder at security cameras? Do you get the feeling that you're just a puppet and someone else is pulling the strings? Well, you just might be right. Welcome back to You and Media, a web series where we think critically about our mediated world. On this episode, we're talking about surveillance, and while this might get dangerously close to conspiracy theory territory, I guarantee that everything I'm going to tell you here is legit. You really are being watched. The government is watching you, Facebook is watching you, Google is watching you, your friends, your teachers, your doctors, they're all watching. And this surveillance, this watching over, it's really powerful. Because it doesn't just give the watchers information, it gives them control. If knowledge is power, then the more information that someone has about you, the more power they have to control you. There's this idea that European philosophers have been talking about since the Enlightenment called the Panopticon. Basically, it's a design for a prison, because people in the 18th century were really worried about how to control people. So this guy, Jeremy Bentham, he came up with a whole new design for how to treat people that they deemed a threat to society or whatever. See, before this, when someone did something bad, they pretty much just threw the person in a dungeon somewhere until they either died or escaped. Or they just executed them in public. The idea there was to make a spectacle of punishment so that people would be scared into being good. But Jeremy Bentham had another idea, which was to actually watch the people, keep an eye on them, and try to make them into better people. His prison was designed like a circle, with cells around the outside. You know how when it's dark outside a window, but it's light on the inside and you can see in from the outside, but you can't see out from the inside? That's pretty much how this whole thing worked. See, there would be a guard in the center, in a tower which was pitch dark on the inside. The cells would be very brightly lit so that the guard could see in, but the prisoners couldn't see the guard. That's why Bentham called it a panopticon. Pan means everything, and optic has to do with seeing. Everything see on, I guess? Anyway, a prisoner in the panopticon would be under constant surveillance, or they could be under constant surveillance, but they'd never know for sure if they were being watched. Which is great for the prison guard, right? Because they can't watch everybody all the time. But this way they don't have to, because the prisoners don't know when they're being watched and when they're not. They have to act like they always are. And so with very little effort on the part of the guards, the people just behave like model prisoners all the time, just in case. That's the idea anyway. No one has ever actually built a true panopticon. There have been some prisons that were really close, like this one in Cuba, but the idea stuck around. Fast forward from the late 18th century to 1975, when a French guy named Michel Foucault released a book called Discipline and Punish, Birth of the Prison. He talked a lot about how Enlightenment ideas of prisons, as typified by Bentham's panopticon, changed every facet of society and of ourselves. The panoptic prison, according to Foucault, became the pattern upon which all other institutions in our society are based. He says that the prison, the military, hospitals, insane asylums, and orphanages, which were both things at the time still, schools, and even families all worked the same way and did the same thing as the panoptic prison. They all served to monitor, regulate, socialize, and ultimately control people. Foucault calls this normalizing, defining a normal way to think and behave, and then making sure that you think and behave that way. They do this, Foucault says, by subjecting you, making you into a subject. This is kind of a play on words. On the one hand, it means turning you into a subject, submissive to the authority of the guards, or the system in general. You are subjected to them. Think of it like a king and his subjects, a loyal subject. But on the other hand, a subject is also a person with an identity. In language, the subject of the sentence is the person doing the thing. It's the focus point. To be a subject pretty much means to be an individual, to be your own person. As paradoxical as this might seem, the panoptic system actually controls you by making you into an individual, a subject with an identity. The idea that people were subjects in the 18th century was pretty new. Now it seems really straightforward, but it used to be that if you did a bad thing, the government would just say, you did a bad thing and you need to be punished for it. But now, with the emphasis on the subject, they could say, you did a bad thing, that means you are a criminal and you need to be reformed. This idea that you are what you do is incredibly powerful. Someone who commits a crime is a criminal. Someone who does something deviant is insane. A child without parents is an orphan. A person who fights in a war is a soldier. So now they can categorize you. Categories are powerful. Once they put you in a box like criminal, they have an idea of what a criminal should be like, and they can try to make you that way. They're going to try to make you normal. But what's a normal person? What's a perfect child? What is a sane person? Is there such a thing as a perfect soldier or a healthy person? These values get instilled in you at every level. Teachers, doctors, prison guards, psychologists, parents, they're all watching off and on, judging to see if you're a normal subject or if you need disciplining. We spend our entire lives within these institutions, going from one to the other, subjected to their surveillance. Foucault explains that even though many of these institutions, group homes or orphanages, schools, factories, are seemingly designed to keep you out of prison, you're actually much more likely to end up in prison the more time you spend within these institutions. This is often what we call today the school-to-prison pipeline, a system that takes students and crafts them into prisoners and then sends them to prison. Because the second you mess up, what he calls the teacher judge, or the doctor judge, or the social worker judge might see you, and they'll send you to prison. And you'll be ready for it because you've been living in the Panopticon your entire life. This sounds a little crazy, like science fiction, right? It totally is. It's the nightmare at the center of the novel 1984 by George Orwell. Big Brother is watching you. The plot indicates intrusive government that can always see you, waiting for you to take one step out of line. The government in the novel wants to destroy personal freedom, to turn every person into a loyal subject of the regime, a perfectly normalized being. Okay, so that's science fiction. But Orwell wrote it because he saw the potential for that to become reality. And it kind of is reality at this point. Our government kind of is always watching us. In 2013, Edward Snowden leaked some classified information about surveillance programs. And we found out that the NSA and some agency called Five Eyes have all kinds of ways to listen and watch us. Can we just take a second to acknowledge that Five Eyes sounds like some kind of spooky science fiction agency? Very Orwellian, very panoptic. Apparently, it's an intelligence agency alliance between the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Anyway, it turns out that the NSA has access to emails, phone records, texts, mailing lists, your internet traffic. They were working closely with private corporations like Verizon, Microsoft, and Google to spy on citizens going about their daily lives online. Unfortunately, this wasn't really news to anyone. We had suspected for a long time that the government had that kind of surveillance in place. It's just that now we know the truth and the scope of it. So why is this a problem, really? The government is just trying to keep us safe and keep an eye out to make sure nothing bad happens. They're trying to catch terrorists before they hurt anyone and stop criminals before they can commit crimes. The NSA is an abbreviation for the National Security Administration, after all. What's wrong with security? The problem with security is that it comes at a price. Privacy and freedom. Sometimes that's worth it. What good are privacy and freedom if you don't have the safety to enjoy them? But that's a really slippery slope. Where do we stop? How much do we really want Big Brother watching us? It's a tough balance to strike. The question has been back in the news and in the public conversation lately because of the tragic mass shooting that happened in San Bernardino, California last year. The investigators looking into the attack are trying to retrieve information from one of the shooter's iPhone and asked Apple to unlock it. Apple CEO Tim Cook refused, saying that giving in to the FBI and providing them their customers' private information would set a dangerous precedent, and that it would create a threat to data security. There's a point to be made on both sides of the argument, really. On the one hand, if the FBI can find a way to stop something like the San Bernardino shootings from happening again, that would obviously be a very good thing. But then again, we should be really careful about how much of our freedoms we're giving up as citizens. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Granted, he was talking about some boring tax stuff and preparing for getting attacked by the French, but still, our country was founded in revolution against an overbearing, too powerful government, so that we could have that freedom. When we sacrifice privacy for security, we run the risk of willingly subjecting ourselves to the Panopticon. Thankfully, the United States is still a democracy. Well, sort of. If we don't like how snoopy our government is, we can change it. Unfortunately, it's just really hard to do that, and it takes a long time. Waiting for the candidates that share our values on the matter to show up and run for office, or even running ourselves, and then electing them is a really inefficient way to do things. And technology, surveillance technology included, develops at a much quicker rate than that. Thankfully, it still seems unlikely that our government is going to turn into an Orwellian dystopia anytime soon. At least I'd like to hope not. The American people are usually pretty hesitant to sacrifice their privacy, even as issues of national security become more and more pressing. When it comes to government, which uses surveillance against your will, and often without your knowledge, people are usually pretty quick to reject it. But we do willingly and happily sign up to be watched and monitored all the time. I'm talking about commercial surveillance. You might not realize it, but you're being watched by companies and corporations all the time, especially on the internet. Just think about how much of the internet is free. Do you pay to use Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Tinder, or Google and all of its services? Do you have to pay to access BuzzFeed, Twitter, or whatever else the kids are using these days? No, you don't. Well, not with money anyway, but everything has a cost. It's not cheap to operate a popular website. Take Facebook, for example. They have to store all of that data, the photos and the videos and the text and all that, and then they have to pay coders and creatives to develop new features and fix the existing ones, keep lawyers on retainer in case they get sued, and still have enough cash left over to keep Mark Zuckerberg a multi-billionaire. And if you're not paying to have an account, then where is all of that money coming from? Mostly it's coming from advertising and marketing. See, Facebook is beyond a mere social networking website. It's a finely tuned advertising supermachine. Advertisers can tell Facebook what kind of people they want to reach, and Facebook will make sure it gets to them. They use what they know about you to target you for advertisers. And just think about how much information they have about you. They know where you live, where you go routinely, what you do, what you like. Have you ever had the experience that you've been shopping for something online, then you get a ton of Facebook ads for that thing? They know what you buy and what you want to buy. Well, what's so bad about that? Don't I want targeted ads so that I know how to get what I want? I'd rather get ads for things I want than ads for things I don't want. Not so fast. What's the price here? What's at stake? To answer that, we're going to get back to government for a minute. More accurately, we're going to go to politics. Because let's face it, electoral politics is one big business. In the new season of Netflix's House of Cards, the issue of big data surveillance in politics takes a central role. The Republican candidate in this fictional presidential race has teamed up with a search engine company, using their resources to collect data on voters and what they want from a candidate, and then manipulating search results to manipulate people, subtly convincing them to vote for him. In retaliation, the anti-hero of the series, sitting President Frank Underwood, considers using the National Security Administration in the same way. Let's take a look.
Imagine a duel, me and Conway. Now, Conway has a powerful gun, a search engine, and it's powerful because with it, he can tell what you think, what you want, where you are, and who you are. He can turn all those searches into votes, and that's enough bullets to kill my chances of winning. But I have an even bigger gun. It's called the NSA. It's one of the perks of being president. That is, if the courts allow my surveillance request. Imagine the men hanging on these walls wish they'd had a gun like that available to them. Your phone, the phone of the person sitting next to you, your neighbor's phone, and everyone you know, and the 300 million Americans you don't know. I can see you, and I can use what I see to rig this election.
That's some scary stuff, especially if you watch the show and know how evil that dude is. And what's scarier is that what he's saying is real. While there's no reason to believe that the government or any presidential candidate is watching us right now, it's all totally possible. And we know it's possible because it's exactly what advertising and marketing companies do all the time. Frank's talking about his opponent here, but he might as well be talking about Google or Apple or Facebook. If you put all that information together, all your Facebook check-ins, your photos tagged with friends, the location of your iPhone, and what you shop for on Amazon, what you search on Google when you lie awake at night, if you put all that together, that creates a pretty complete and nuanced portrait of a human being. Anyone with all that information pretty much knows
what you think, what you want, where you are, and who you are.
And instead of turning those searches into votes, they could turn them into sales. See, that's exactly the kind of information that an advertiser wants. They want to know everything about you so that they can market to you with the most precision possible. Imagine people are movies, and an advertiser is browsing Netflix. They're scrolling through the categories and they're trying to pick a demographic, people that want their product. If all they see are genres like young people, old people, white people, people of color, men, and women, it's going to be really hard to narrow their choices down to which person or movie they want to pick. But the more information that Netflix has, the more they can break up those categories. To the point where you get those crazy Netflix groups like understated independent workplace movies. Or in this case, 18 to 22-year-old white male vegetarian college students who come from Chicago and wear round glasses and make obscure academic web series. Marketers and advertisers really do have categories that precise. Okay, well, almost. And it helps them only spend the money advertising to people that want their product. That's what they call a target market. All that information, all that data, websites like Google and Amazon, not to mention marketing companies that exist for this sole purpose, collect it from your web browser and sell it to advertisers and marketers, who then use it to advertise directly to you. They use cookies, computer files that they place on your computer, to track all kinds of information about you. How often you visit their site, what you do there, how long you stay, where you live. Marketing companies like DoubleClick use cookies to lurk on all kinds of websites, connecting the dots between what you do on each site, creating a really specific, nuanced profile of who you are and what you do. And who owns DoubleClick? Google. They bought DoubleClick in 2008 for $3.1 billion. That's how much this kind of information is worth. Because once they have the knowledge, they can use the power. Just like Foucault's Panopticon, they can control you by watching you. Instead of making you into the ideal prisoner or the ideal citizen, anyone with this kind of wealth of surveillance can turn you into the ideal consumer. Think about how much you use Google and its affiliate services alone. Use it to ask questions, to shop, to get directions, to send and receive emails, to watch stupid videos on YouTube like this one. All of that gives marketers vital information about who you are as a consumer. Now they know exactly what kinds of ads will be appealing to you as a consumer and where on the internet to put them so you'll see them. They know when you're on the way to work or school and when you're leaving. Maybe they know who you're talking to and about what. Hypothetically, Google could cooperate with marketers to influence you into behaving certain ways. Imagine, for example, that you're using Google Maps on your phone to get to your grandmother's house. Now imagine that a company like Starbucks has given Google or DoubleClick a ton of money to get them more customers. Google might know that people like you often like to get coffee at this time of day, and it could take you on a route to grandmother's house that conveniently brings you past a Starbucks, hoping that you'll stop and get that latte. This is all totally within the realm of possibility if it isn't happening already. There is a way out, though. DoubleClick has an opt-out feature, although it doesn't opt you out of all of its functions. You can disable third-party cookies and clear cookies from your browser, but they'll just keep coming back. Besides, if you get rid of all of your cookies, it'll make your experience on the internet way less convenient. All of your preferences, your login information, it's tied up in cookies. See, that's pretty much the central problem here. When it comes to the government, we give up privacy for security. But on the internet, we're giving up privacy for convenience. And somehow we're all okay with that. We don't even bother reading privacy policies or terms and conditions pages. We just blindly click agree. Because we want the convenience of the internet. And the only alternative is just to walk away. They've got us in a tight spot. The only way to keep Google from selling your information to advertising agencies is to not use Google. And there's no way to do that without seriously impairing your ability to function in today's world. No Gmail, no Google Maps, no YouTube, no Google+. Does anyone use Google+? And of course, this kind of surveillance isn't limited to Google. Facebook does it. Twitter does it, Instagram does it, pretty much every site on the web is collecting information on you. How can you just walk away from it all? For now, all you can do is be aware. Be conscious of who has your information and what they're doing with it. When you can, read privacy policies and terms and conditions pages, even though they're a pain. Check out the privacy settings on your browser, on your social networks, and on your phone.
I can see you, and I can use what I see to rig this election.
Or to control you as a consumer. Whether it's the government or it's corporations, you're being watched constantly. They're using information to control your behavior just like Foucault said in the 70s. So when they look right back at them. Learn what they're doing and how you can stop it. Vote for candidates at every level who agree with you on issues of privacy and security. If you like your free will, do what you can to close your blinds, figuratively speaking, and shut out the surveillors. Or just accept it. If you like the convenience of the internet, if you don't mind seeing ads for things that you want, if you trust the government to keep you safe and the advertisers to act with your interests in mind, then that's fine. Have fun. I'll be over here clearing cookies and disconnecting my phone lines. Well, that's all we have time for today. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out the links in the description below and to do your own research. I'm no expert, so go seek out people who are. And be sure to check out other episodes of You and Media. I'll see you there. And the NSA probably will too. And Google. Bye.